Hi guys, this is Goose, and I'm going to be showing you how to do lineless painting. So I've got my sketch here, and this is basically the first step where you make your sketch, and it's kind of messy right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with a value that I think I'm going to paint this with. I think I'm going to do like a blue like that. So we're just going to go in and redo what I just did, but cleaner, because we're going to be using these lines once we paint. I'm probably just gonna speed this bit up because there's nothing for me to talk about really, considering. I mean, if you don't want me to speed that up, that's fine too. I don't know why my pen's being so goofy today. Well, actually I'm using this pencil tool here, but anyway. It might be that my tablet's just having a day and doesn't want to do a feathering thing for me. Hold on. No, it seems like it's doing a feather, just not with the pen. So, okay. I see how it is. See how it is? That's fine. Oh, by the way, the program I'm using is something called MediaBang, which is a free program actually, developed by a Japanese company that I think distributes comics, and the purpose of the program is to like make comic making more accessible, I guess, because it has a lot of cool features like cloud storage, and you can also like collaborate with people. Like I think they added a new feature where you can add comments onto the canvas, like right here, which I think is really cool. So if you want to go check out the program, you totally should. I have been using it for a while, and I feel like it's a really good kind of like Photoshop copy in the sense of like how you would use it to paint. But it has a lot of like cool features that Photoshop doesn't have, like these snap tools up here. Like this is the straight snap, so I can just do straight lines only. Or there's also like the vanishing point tool, which you can like set here, and then once you do that, like it'll only go to that vanishing point, you know, stuff like that. So it would be it's really a good program, I feel like, to use. Alright, so we kind of have a little funky picture because I guess the pencil is just being in butt today, which is fine. We can deal with it. I don't really use the pencil to paint anyway, so we should be fine. It's just, okay. So this is kind of a bit more cleaned up sketch. Kind of looks gross, I know. But worry not, it's going to get better, trust me. So now what I do is I usually put in a background color into the whole thing to try and, that's too dark. I usually put in a background. See, now it's doing that with that thing too. What's its deal? Gosh. But I basically try to make it so that when I do my first like initial when I do my first initial painting where I put down the base colors and the shadows and stuff like that, I make this a clipping layer so that when I go back in and I'm painting, I only have the colors that I would want. So let me just quickly fill this in. How are you guys doing? Doing okay? I don't know if I'm going to speed some of this process up. I probably will once I get to painting, because that really does take quite a while, especially for me, because I'm one of those people that kind of doesn't really like to blend that much, because I like the style of, this is set on canvas, not here. I like the style of texturing the shading instead of going back and doing blending. Not to mention the fact that like sometimes when you blend, you can get into the dangerous territory of muddying your picture. And like the only way to like prevent that is basically just to like practice and see what you're comfortable with and stuff like that. But that's not my job to tell you how to do that. Okay, so I have my clipping layer now, so I'm gonna go in and gonna make this a new layer, a clipping layer, and I'm going to now start. What color should this person's skin be? Let's do like a nice pink, purple type thing going on. All right. So basically now I go in and I fill in all of my base colors like so, where I just kind of decide what colors I feel like doing, and stuff like that. I mean, for this piece, it's not going to be that hard to figure out what I want because it's so small, but for other things like oh, I almost forgot. Once you have your sketch down, you should probably set it to multiply or whatever setting is akin to that, because then your lines will basically do what multiply does, and make sure that your line is the darkness that you want for that. But later on we're going to basically darken that. Whoopsies. We're basically going to darken that anyway, but for now you're going to want to have that. Oh, and also another like kind of art thing to note, not really specific to my tutorial exactly, but you should rarely ever use complete white or complete black. The thing about that is like color is always relative. So basically, if I have, say, a lighter orange, obviously it's not going to stick out too much. Well, it kind of does, but you get my idea where for here it's not going to stick out that much, but here it like sticks out so much more because the orange and the blue are complementary colors, so it's going to stick out so much more. And that's why I am going to go in and make his eyes like blue-green, because then your eyes will be drawn to that. See, it's just like, whoopsies. See, it's just like you immediately, I'm going to change his skin color a little bit. Hold on a minute. I'm going to be a cheaty McSheederson and just fill it. Yeah, there we go. Alright. So, and now I'm going to make the green a bit more saturated to try and, okay, and then just a little bit whiter, and we're gonna try and let's just keep that for now, because sometimes the colors I use will change like drastically throughout the process, and that's just kind of something that you have to roll with. I mean, it depends on what you're comfortable with again, so if you prefer to make sure that you have all the colors that you want for sure, and then you set a palette down, that's fine, and that's what you can do. But for me personally, what I like to do is I kind of just like to experiment with colors, kind of like fiddle around with the hue the hue filter that basically most art programs have, where you pop it open and see what you can get out of it, because sometimes like you maybe won't realize something that you might like better than what you've decided first until you experiment a little bit and see what other options are there. I'm gonna make Hold on a second, I'm gonna make his eyes a bit more yellow-green because now that we have a paler white here, it'd be easier if his eyes were a bit more, there we go, now we're cooking. Like, see, basically I just kind of goof around and see what colors I'd prefer to use and stuff like that. Okay, so now we have our base colors put down, and so now I make another layer, again make that a clipping layer, and I set it to multiply, and then I decide what color of shading I feel like using, and since I have like a dark blue already, I'm going to do, let's do like a yellow, not yellow, let's do like a red or purple, kind of like a middle shade. So basically what we're using is this shade right here, and so we go in, and I'm gonna start using a different brush. It's this newer brush that I use is called Sumi brush. It kind of has like a nice roughness to it, and I've been experimenting with it lately. That's also another thing that like I neglected to do when I first started out digital painting, was I never really wanted to stray away from the brushes I always used, and that has like its good points and its bad points. But honestly, if you feel like you could find something new or different with a brush that you haven't used previously, then you should totally just go for it. Like, you should not be afraid to try and do something new. Like, you could discover a brush that you would have never used previously from just randomly searching around and finding fun brushes that might suit your style better. But again, it all is comparable to practice and figuring out what you like best, and stuff like that. So basically now I'm kind of just putting in base shades and stuff like that, and obviously these shades look really, really dark, like extreme, but we're not going to use this opacity because this is just like our first round of shading, so we won't be doing that just yet. I'm just goofing around and trying to shape. Also make sure you know where your light source is. Obviously that's like kind of one of the first things you should know, and obviously my light source is coming from this direction right here, so we need to make sure that this is a bit darker. I'm kind of doing the usual, this is anime lighting thing going on, but okay. Alright, so now that I have that, I will take it down to like what I feel would suit the picture. Sometime, like if I wanted some like really dramatic lighting, of course I would make the opacity something like this, where it's like a little more than half, or if I wanted something a little less like that, I'd do something like this. I'm gonna like try and do the middle medium of that, and so I'm gonna go in again and do a darker shade, and I'm going to go down this color spectrum and then also make it a bit closer to blue, because I personally enjoy doing shading that usually uses blue lighting and stuff like that. So I'm gonna basically do the same thing again, where I go in and I basically do a sharper shade. And again, you're like, oh my god, this is so dark. Do not worry. This is the digital age. We have the technology to make it a lot less dark with opacity. So just gonna do this kind of quick. And also, like, I kind of don't touch the nose until I have my shades done, because for me personally the nose is the hardest thing to do, and I kind of just leave it until I know what is happening basically in the picture, and then I can figure out what excuse me, I can figure out what I would prefer to use and what the lighting I feel like doing and stuff like that. I'm just shading in, and then this is what I'm talking about, where I kind of like to kind of do the suggestion of blending but not really blend, because I prefer to not to blend and stuff like that. And I'm really sorry that like my brush is doing this weird thing where it kind of like randomly goes to the size that it is established and it's not feathering. I think it's kind of just a thing that OBS is mad at me for doing so much. Like, I'm recording right now, and then I'm recording the screen capture too. Excuse me. Okay, so now I kind of basically just merge. This is like something kind of weird about media bang, but it's nothing like too drastic, but you have to turn off the clipping so that you can merge layers, but I merge the layers so that I'm gonna make this a bit, I'm gonna turn up the opacity on this a bit because you kind of lose it a little bit when you merge them, but okay. So now we're done with shading, and now what I'm going to do is I am going to do the highlights. So I basically do the same thing. I usually though only do one layer of highlight instead of two, and then when I'm painting I will do lighter shades because it all depends on what you get after you establish like what you feel like and stuff like that. So I'm again going, this time I'm going to try and do something a little bit more closer to red. Let's see how that looks. That's kind of nice. Let's do something a bit less saturated. Also, again, the opacity is going to get turned down, so worry not, friends. Let's try blue light. Ooh, that's kind of nice. How about green? Ooh, that's fun. See, like, sometimes I just goof around until I find what I would like to use, and and we're back to doing the same thing where it's kind of just, whoopsies, lost that shade, where it's kind of just, you basically goof around, figure out what you prefer for highlights and shades, and this is again like kind of just based on what your style is and how you would prefer to shade and stuff like that. And since this is, you see, like, different from the multiply layer, this layer is in this program called the add layer, but let's see, in Paint Toolside it's called the luminosity layer. It's probably also called add in Photoshop, but basically you get like this luminous effect where you kind of just have the whites of everywhere. You just have, it's white everywhere. Good God. Okay, so then I turn the opacity down again, and you see, like, now it's much less of an oh my god and more of oh, that's natural lighting, isn't it? Yes, it is. Well, natural-ish. Okay, so now I go in, and what I do is, here comes the scary part. The sketch that I just did, which I cleaned up, is going to be used as the line that we have. So now I do the scary part and it's gone. There it go, off into the distance. So now I kind of just turn off clipping because, oh, actually no, let's keep it. What I do now is I will merge these two layers so that the clipping still is happening where it doesn't go out and there's a bunch of stuff that I don't want. But now everything is merged down and it's all one layer. I know it's scary, but you gotta let go of your baby. And so here comes the part that I personally like the most. But I don't know, it depends again on what type of person you are. But basically I just goof around and why is it doing this? Oh, okay. That was weird. But basically what I do is I go in and I just start painting. Like, that's basically it. It's kind of like how you would paint normally, but now it's just digitally. And as you can see, I'm kind of like adding colors that I think would be nice. Like I said before, it all depends on how comfortable you are with doing stuff like this, and you could add in colors as you go. I personally do it often because I find that sometimes I'll need something that's a bit lighter, or I'll need a shadow that's a bit darker, and I will just kind of keep adding shades until I think I have what I'm looking for. But again, that's all personal preference and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of just go in and shade. It's kind of, there's nothing really much to talk about. I mean, I do, like here, for example, I'm gonna find a darker shade. I might actually stop recording, not the video, but the audio, because I think that's screwing around with my brush. So I think I'll just over record this part. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Hold on a minute. Alright guys, I'm back like I said I would be. So now this is about 8 times the speed of what I would normally paint at. So I think this was a little over maybe 30 or 40 minutes, and now it's like 10 or something like that. I'm not good with math, that's why I'm an art major. Well, I was, but anyway. So now I'm doing the thing where I kind of just go in and do kind of a mix of hatching and wood carving, I guess is what I would call it. It kind of reminds me of like the grain of wood, where I will do the suggestion of shading and stuff like that, but I won't actually use a brush that will blend, but I instead just hatch in where the values will change. Excuse me. So, like here I am adding more darker shades and stuff like that, and I put in more lighter shades, and I go in and, yeah, see, like, this is what I'm talking about, where the style that I use is kind of spontaneous, where sometimes I'm like, oh, you know what, this person needs, like, green lipstick, and so I put it on. So here's the part where it kind of gets to the really scary bit that I think a lot of people are gonna be a bit frightened of, where the original sketch that you had before is kind of going to maybe get lost when you're painting, depending on what your style is like. Like, you can see that I'm going over a lot of the darker lines that used to be the sketch, because sometimes the sketch that I do might not translate to how I want to paint. Like, maybe I want to do a more realistic painting, and then the sketch doesn't really translate that way, or I might want to do something a bit more cartoony, and the sketch that I did might not translate that way either. So, this is the part where maybe the sketch might get lost a bit, but in the end you're going to end up with a product that you're more happy with, because you've been literally, like, carving out the colors, and you feel like that this is what you really wanted. It's kind of like, I guess, how some people would talk about carving marble, where you kind of just, like, see the picture eventually and you get there in the end. Like, digital painting is just its own little journey where you kind of just have to experiment and keep going, and if you get frustrated, you kind of just have to take a break, step back, maybe learn something new, and stuff like that. So now we get to the part that's basically most of the rest of the video, where I do the hair, and I don't do the hair in a chunkier way. I usually do it in a way that it's more textured, as if there are strands. That's how I usually do hair or fur, depending, because I love to put in textures when I'm painting, or even when I'm drawing. I love to do textured hatching or something like that. Excuse me. So here I am again, just like continuously shading, and I think some people will do a thing where they do, like, first I do the face and then I'm done, and then I do the hair and then I'm done. I'm not really like that. I kind of just, like, hop around, because I have this thing where I often get bored of a certain area, or I might get frustrated with some area, and then I'll just go back and do a different area, and then I'll come back when I need to do that area again. And that usually helps me out, because then it keeps me interested in what I'm doing, but then I still will manage to get everything done, just not in the way where it's like first face, then hair, then clothes, etc. So here I am adding the part of the hairline and a more suggestion of the bangs because I'm going for a more realistic type thing going on here. More strands, more strands. And as you can see, like, the hair has changed quite drastically from how it was when I first did the sketch, but I ultimately like it better because it looks more fun, I think, in my opinion. And, excuse me, geez. And I'm adding, like, on the edges, I'll add, like, suggestions of flyaway hair, like there and there, because I think it makes it more interesting and realistic when I do that. So here I am doing the usual lighting and stuff like that. And I'm doing the more strandy thing instead of chunkily shading because I'm not animating here. So I might as well just make this picture really pretty and stuff like that. So here I am adding like a bluer shade because I did originally think that I wanted to do like a blue-green shade, a blue-green lighting type thing. So I'm trying to bring that back and make, a bit more of a more interesting like color for the ring. Like, you know, when you see people and you see like that ring around their hair where the light usually hits, that's what I usually put in my pictures often. Okay, so now I'm going in with not the same brush, but it's the same type of brush. It's the Sumi coarse brush, and basically what that is it's kind of the same textured brush, but instead the how do I put this? The color that it has is more separated, so more of the color behind it comes through. So basically, like, if you draw a line, you're going to, yeah, like over there, you see like more white in it than you would a regular brush. And this is kind of how I quote-unquote blend, where I go in and I put down the medium shade to try and blend it and stuff like that. Blend but not blend, you know what I mean. I hope. But that's basically all of it, and I just keep going, keep refining, keep sculpting, and this is just like a relaxing process where you keep going and find what you really like and stuff like that. And again, as I said previously, you kind of have to let your baby go and realize it's going to change, it's going to grow. But that's like the whole fun of this style, where it's kind of spontaneous and you don't really know what's going to happen until the very end. And sometimes you plan and sometimes there's no plan, but that's the fun of it. So that's all, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and I hope it helped you in some way. Thanks for watching.